I'm a little late. I apologize that you had to wait. It totally slipped my mind. I lost all my sense of time. So buy me that drink and just let me think, and I'll tell you the reasons why. My alibi.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Alibi the podcast, an initiative started by Gagasan Mahasiswa Undang-Undang Sabah. I'm your host, Joffrey. Joining me today are Nadia, Elaine, and a very, very special guest, Miss Velvette Rozelle Roger. Born and raised in Penampang, Sabah, she is the current Deputy Director in the Operations and Administrations Department in Komuhakan, a youth-led initiative to empower Sabah's indigenous communities. She writes and researches articles that revolve around the topics of Kadazandusun culture and identity. One of her recent publications, Nunuk Ragang, The Mythical Origin of the Kadazandusuns, can be found on the Komuhakan's Medium site. She is currently diversifying her skill set by stepping out of her comfort zone and connecting with other NGOs across the state, hoping to improve human rights for all Sabahans. Today, we're going to be discussing Sabah's indigenous groups, mainly the Kadazan community as well as the native laws in Sabah. But before that, let's have a little ice-breaking session. Firstly, my name is Joffrey. I am the host of Alibi Podcast. I am a second-year law student and officer in Gagasan Mahasiswa Undang-Undang Sabah. Elaine, would you like to go?
Hi everyone, my name is Elaine and I'm studying my final year at Brickfields Asia College under the UOL program. And I'm the current VP of Strategic Planning in GANS.
Nadia?
Hi, I'm Nadia, and I'm a third year UOL student in BAC, and I am an officer for event management in GANS.
What about you, Miss Velvet?
Hi everyone, my name is Velvette Rozelle Roger and I am a Kadazan born and raised in Penampang, Sabah. I am currently in my first year studying for an economics degree. In Komuhakan movement, I hold the position as the Deputy Director in Operations and Administration. It is such a great honor to be here today. Thank you so much for having me and kudos to GANS as well for organizing this.
All right, so a little ice-breaking question. The question is, what's one hobby or interest that no one knows you have? Right, so I'll go first. One hobby or interest that maybe not no one, but maybe most of the people don't know that I have. I am actually very into poetry. I love reading and writing poetry. Yeah. What about you, Elaine?
Wow, that's so impressive. Okay, so for me, I guess it's not very known because this hobby is quite new. I've recently just learned how to crochet from a friend, and I'm not very good, but I do enjoy it. And someday I hope I can maybe crochet a top or a hat or something like that.
Ooh, crocheting.
Yeah.
Sounds cool. What about you, Nadia?
I also think it's not really a secret, but because it's new, I mean, my only hobby for now is honestly playing Switch games. Yeah, and I'm busy playing Zelda games and Animal Crossing. So yeah, that's all I've been doing. All this while, yes. Okay, moving on.
Okay, moving on. Miss Velvet, what is one hobby or interest that no one or maybe not that many people know you have?
I think for me it would be painting by numbers. Only a number of people know about it because I just started it like mid mid this year. It's like a mental therapy formula to distress, and it's very relaxing. But at the same time, it can get a bit stressful because you need like a lot of patience to number the little spaces lah.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. All right. So that's it with our ice breaking session. Right. Before diving into our main topic, let's get to know more about the Komuhakan movement. So, Miss Velvet, this question is directed to you. What is the story behind Komuhakan?
Thank you, Geoffrey. So a little bit of background. In general terms, Komuhakan is an independent youth-led movement to promote and preserve the heritage, culture, and identity of indigenous communities across Sabah. And the term Komuhakan itself means youth in the Kadazan language. And true to our name, we are an organization comprised of talented young people. And Komuhakan was founded in May last year in conjunction with the Harvest Festival month. So now we are almost a year and a half old. And Ivan Abanus, he is the founder and former director of Komuhakan. And Atalia Mejawa is the co-founder, and now she is currently the director for director in operations and administration of the team. So from what I know, this Komuhakan wasn't an instantaneous process. It they both of them had to like carefully thought about forming this over several months, and at one point they just planned it out and made a list of things to do. So they started by asking people if they wanted to join them on this mission, and they started to find volunteers from all over the region in Sabah. And yeah, Komuhakan had a successful start. We started gaining a lot of followers across our social media platforms. And for now, we share most of our content on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. As for our super lengthy and detailed articles, we post them on our Medium site. Yeah. So I can say that we have received quite a lot of good feedbacks as well from our past work. And people were thanking us, praising us for the good work. And hopefully we can continue to preserve our culture.
No,
That
that's
sounds great.
very inspiring. Yeah. Okay, so, Miss Velvet, you're the current Deputy Director of Operations and Administrations in Komuhakan, right? So,
Yeah.
what actually inspired you to join Komuhakan in the first place?
Okay. Previously, I was actually the head of research and writing team in Komuhakan because I wanted to, polish my writing skills and all that stuff. But I think my motivation for joining Komuhakan was to utilize its platform to speak up and participate in causes that are related to our visions. And at the same time, also, I hope to be a part of something bigger than myself. And I am still in the movement now because I think Komuhakan has become more than just a platform to me. It has become my vision and purpose for activism, and it showed me the incredible lengths that the Sabahan youths can achieve.
I see. After hearing what you have said and how you have improved yourself, right? You wrote so many articles while you are in Komuhakan. What would you say is your favorite part about being in the society?
Okay, if I had to just pick one part, this might sound a little bit cliche, but my favorite, my favorite would have to be all the members in Komuhakan. Komuhakan is really small. We only have like less than 20 members. So I really appreciate the value that I feel when I am surrounded by like-minded individuals working towards the same shared goal. And I wish to meet them one day because I haven't really meet them personally, like majority of them, because we're from different regions in Sabah, right? And honestly, as volunteers, like to do this without getting paid and having to donate both of your time and energy into making a project or an event, these people, they are highly motivated, capable, and dedicated at full, which I really, really admire. Yeah.
I feel like from what your story, I feel like guns as well can relate to that because we are also a small society. and being able to work with people who are as excited and motivated as you are must be really great. I don't think it's a cliche answer though. I totally understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
I love the
Uh,
cliches, honestly. All right. So with that being in mind, what are your visions for this movement? Is Komuhakan planning to expand? What is the bigger picture?
Okay. The main reason we initiated Komuhakan is because we want youths to be actively engaged in the preservation of their culture. So our vision, our aim is to preserve, promote, and protect the Kadazan heritage. For now, it's Kadazan heritage, but in the future, we wish to like expand to the KDMR communities across Sabah. But for now, we're focusing on Kadazan, and we do recognize that our current efforts may not be effective enough, largely maybe due to political inaction. And so we want to bring a modern approach to this age-old problem. We realized that there was a lack of reliable channels to educate ourselves about our own culture, and we wanted to fill that gap. Yeah, so we truly believe that a fresh perspective is necessary lah, in order to revive the cultures of the various indigenous groups in Sabah. So yeah, we the Komuhakan members, we wish to prove that through this collective effort by passionate young people, we can truly make significant impacts that will hopefully change the course of history lah, for the better. Yeah.
That's a very noble answer. I find that very admirable.
It's actually very inspiring, to hear how passionate you guys are about the whole Komuhakan movement. And I hope we can channel some of that passion, into what we're doing for guns as well. Okay, so moving on, we're going to discuss the main topic of our podcast today. To provide some background for our listeners, Sabah is actually home to many, many indigenous groups. And I think it's around 33 of them to be exact. But for this episode, we'll be mainly focusing on the Kadazans. So the Kadazans are a Sabahan indigenous community, and they're largely found in Penampang on the west coast of Sabah, the surrounding locales, as well as many different locations in the interior. Nowadays, I guess most of us are more familiar with the term Kadazandusun, and this term came about after the integration of culture between, the Kadazans and the Dusuns, and by now, they're known as the largest ethnic group in Sabah. So, Miss Velvette, seeing that you also like to research and write about, the Kadazans community, about their culture and their identity, what would you say are some of your favorite Kadazan traditions or festivals, and what do you like about them?
I think for this one, I will focus on festival, the Harvest Festival. So Harvest Festival is also known as Kamatan. It is launched on May 1 every year to indicate the beginning of the kampung and district level celebrations. And today, statewide, the Kamatan Festival is celebrated annually under the Kadazandusun Cultural Association, KDCA, on the 30th and 31st. Yeah, so talking about Kamatan, I love Kamatan because through this Kamatan festival, it is able to unite us, the people in Sabah, not only the Kadazan communities, irrespective of our background, our races, religion, culture, and it is like an integral part of the Kadazan community. So I love how Kamatan is able to strengthen the bond between families and friends, and at the same time teaches everyone the importance of a strong unity as the foundation that reinforces harmony in Sabah. So talking historically about Kamatan, it revolves around the Kadazan legend of Huminodun. According to people, during the olden days, uh, upon seeing the massive starvation that had descended upon God's Komuhakan's people, Hominodun, she's like the savior, the savior. She offered herself as a sacrifice that parts of her body would be transformed into food for the people. So that's why now we Kadazan, we celebrate Kamatan annually to give our respect towards Huminodun for her sacrifices.
All right. Taking a step back from the favorite traditions and festivals, what are the current challenges faced by the Kadazan community as a whole?
I think the issue that I'm personally most concerned about is our language, especially in the case of Sabah. I don't think the younger generation would actually know how to converse in their mother tongue. And another thing to take note is that even though these native languages, like Bahasa Kadazandusun language, is a subject in school, both primary and secondary, and that students can take it up as an elective, there is still problem of how many students can actually take this subject. And from my past research, the introduction of Kadazandusun subject into schools was actually pursued back in 1994, largely in part by YB Tan Sri Bernard Dompok. But until now, I can say that the language still had no clearly defined designation and as to what extent that it can actually be helpful. Yeah. So another problem would definitely be the recognition of the Kadazan community. For example, a lot of students from Sabah, they travel to West Malaysia to further their study, but a lot of people do not really know about Kadazandusun community. And there are also stigmas like from the people there, like they there are stigmas like how do you get here, like do you go to schools in Sabah by boat, do you live on trees, etc. And this happened to me personally as well when I was in pre-U, but I cannot deny that while there is that stigma, it is still very much true actually that in a lot of rural areas, to some extent it is still happening, but not in the cities lah. Yeah, so those are the two main challenges I think that Kadazan community face nowadays.
As to like the language part, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not an expert at this, but would you say that one of the problems as to the language is that there is no unitary Kadazan language? There's no singular Kadazan language, right? It's not really defined as like a single language.
Yeah, true. Like, for example, like Kadazan in Penampang, we have Kadazan Penampang, or also known as Kadazan Tanga. And people living in Papal district, they use Kadazan Papat like that. Yeah. So and another thing to take note is that people living in the cities like Penampang and KK, they usually mix up their Kadazans. They have slangs, so they they add the BM and English. They have their own versions, like when they speak in Kadazan, like they mix. So that's why people also very confused.
Exactly that. It's like it's no longer pure anymore, right?
Yeah. True. And there are also like there are no reliable sources for them to refer to.
True that.
I think what you guys are trying to say that it already became like a Rojak language, right? Right.
Yeah, that's some
Yeah.
Bahasa Rojak.
Yeah. I mean, that's how everything has become. I mean, with English, VM, and other languages, I do understand the concern. Um, so just now you say about about being asked about how do you go to school, do you go by boat, and I really respect the way that you answer it, saying that to an extent that is still very true. And yes, it is a concern, but for people to still, I mean, people in Peninsula especially, still generalize us by saying that, oh, do you go to school by boat, is still really concerning. um for me, in my experience, at least, when I use Grab to go back to the airport, they will ask like, "Oh, do you live near the mountains? Is the airport near the mountains?" I don't even know how this could have happened because we are not even that far from them. So like, besides the language that being a concern, especially it's still not being recognized. Uh, Taking that aside first, do you think that the younger generation of indigenous communities is not very familiar with their own culture, other than the language that we have mentioned? Because even by that, people are still confused whether they have other accents, right, in each district. So why do you think so? Why do you believe that? If you believe it, why do you think that they're not familiar with their own culture?
Yeah, I think the younger generation or Gen Z of the indigenous communities nowadays, they are
Yeah.
unfamiliar with their own culture. And I know some of my Kadazan friends who are even ashamed to admit that they are Kadazans. So it is kind of
Wow.
sad to see this happen. Yeah, and it's upsetting to see how most Kadazan youths nowadays, not only Kadazan lah, but those in indigenous communities, they do not make an effort to at least learn how to speak in their native language if they cannot practice the rituals or the traditions. And me myself, honestly, I am not that fluent in my mother tongue, the Kadazan language, yet, but I'm still learning. And if people talk to me in Kadazan, if my grandparents talk to me in Kadazan, I can actually understand them and I can converse with them, but using basic Kadazan like that. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And yeah, so today I feel like many of the younger generation, they do not even understand the conversational Kadazan. So in their IC, they are Kadazan, but they cannot prove it. Like, they cannot even speak. They don't understand.
Oh.
A decoration only lah on the IC. So,
Oh.
but
No, you're
I
not
wouldn't
wrong.
say, yeah, yeah.
I
I
mean,
wouldn't, yeah,
no, continue, continue.
yeah.
What did you say?
Oh, okay. I wouldn't say that it is entirely their fault lah,
Mm.
because it could also be because this was instilled in them in since they are young. Maybe their parents no longer speak to them in the native language. Maybe the parents or the households prefer to converse in bahasa Melayu, English, or Chinese. I cannot deny this fact. Lah. It is true that many parents nowadays, they prefer that the children speak these languages, especially Mandarin, because it is perceived to to be a future economically important language,
Yeah.
in jobs. So to the parents, there is no expectation for
Mm.
these native languages to be learned. Lah. They do not see their children gaining economically from it, if you get what I
Oh.
mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
I get that.
definitely.
I
Yeah.
get that. It's like
I mean, mhm.
if you were to speak Kadazan, it's like you where are you gonna speak it? You're only gonna speak it in like in Penampang or like in Sabah. But if you were to speak English, you could use it like around the whole world. And I think that's the I guess one of the main reasons why most Kadazan households nowadays they are more fluent in English as opposed to Kadazan, their own mother tongue, the Kadazan language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I am a victim of that. I did take up Mandarin classes. So I could be
Yeah.
that person.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
Chinese as well. Like I also struggled speaking Chinese, but my parents they also said the same thing. You know, Chinese in the future will be very important.
how I can utilize it in the future, and what gives me, an extra benefit, you could say, in terms of getting jobs or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just to add
any
on, Miss Velvet, you mentioned that you're currently learning the Kadazan language. Would you like to recommend ways in which people should learn the Kadazan language now? Like, are you going for classes?
I personally don't attend classes. I learn from my grandparents lah. And if people want to learn Komuhakan, like the basic, they can. In Komuhakan, we have this thing like Kadazan word of the day. We post like twice a week like that, so people can follow us and they can learn lah. We teach you like how to pronounce it, and there's also like direct translation lah. So it's quite reliable. You can learn a word in a day, and then like the next few days you can learn another word like that. And for people that want to learn the language, I suggest them to take classes if they're very dedicated into it. But I am not sure if there are any webinars available for now. Last time they used to have. We collaborated with UKEC for about Sabah. So one of the classes we taught people how to converse in Kadazan, like the basic sentences lah. Yeah.
I'll take note of that. I need to learn my mother tongue.
So, other than the initiatives that have been taken by Komuhakan, do you have any other suggestions, like how we can encourage these youths to learn more about their culture, not just Kadazan, like just everyone else and their culture? I mean, me included, I'm a Suluk and I also cannot speak the language. So, do you have any suggestions other than the initiatives that have been taken by your society?
Firstly, I think family actually plays an important role in this. Parents, they should aid the youths to step out of their comfort zone and talk to them about their culture, because I believe that parents and grandparents are much wiser in terms of like knowing the stories, like the history, like the proper ways, rituals, traditions, and all, because they have experienced them themselves. Or another way is, yeah, we can also encourage them through social media. Like, it is up to the person to be informed about it. The people themselves should make the effort. That's why we at Komuhakan, we try to promote the use of Kadazan, whether through the Kadazan word of the day that I've mentioned, and as well as through translating our articles into Kadazan. Like, for the base, we write our articles about Kadazan culture in English, but then we have a translation team. They will help us to translate the articles into Kadazan. So when people read our articles in English, they could also see the translated version in Kadazan. So like they know, oh, this one means this one, like that. Yeah. And besides that, I think people could also look up other organizations like KLF, Kadazandusun Language Foundation. Komuhakan also work really close with, we are quite close with Madam Rita Lasimbang. So when we had problems in translating our articles, when we had problems to translating certain words or understanding the words, because we are also still learning, the youths, we would always seek her help and guidance to ensure that everything is correct and good enough for public viewing and publishing. Yeah, so I think KLF has also published a Kadazan dictionary, so they can look up into that one.
Well, thank you. That was very insightful. Yeah, I'm sure that's very useful to all of us here. So just a follow up on what you said, the younger generation or the Gen Z not being familiar or in tune with their culture, as well as all of the initiatives that Komuhakan is taking. why do you think it's so important for us to learn and spread Kadazan culture or even our own culture in that sense throughout Malaysia?
This is a very good question because I think that on many occasions, my West Malaysian friends would tell me that they know close to nothing about us Sabahans, about our culture and what we do. They think that Sabah and Sarawak are the same place, that we live on trees, all the stigmas that I've mentioned just now. So it is important. I think Malaysians need to play part in wanting to know each other because we are a multicultural country and we can learn a lot from different communities. Yeah, and it is kind of interesting to know about a culture that you have never heard of. And everything is on the internet and social media nowadays. So it is really up to them to not be ignorant lah. So in Komuhakan, we make learning about Sabah and the indigenous culture in region very, very, very easy to understand because we have infographics. So people can just have a read and pass it around their friends to share about our culture. Yeah. And even if they have doubts about our information, they can always refer to other reliable sources on the internet as well.
I'm gonna sidetrack a bit. So, as we all know, Sabah has so many indigenous communities. Miss Velvet, how do you feel that most of them, whenever, like, let's say, whenever they fill out a form, for example, they always have to tick the box that says dan line. So what does it make you feel, the fact that all of these communities are categorized under just one heading of dan line?
Okay. To tell you the truth, I used to think that the classification of dan line is sort of like an insult. I last time I felt so angry whenever I had to fill in forms and had to tick dan line because Kadazan was not an option. And sometimes the line option is not even there. So I have to like ask them to email, ask them to revert me back and ask them lah, like how do I proceed? Like what should I take and do? Yeah. But now I am more understanding of it and I realize that a lot of my West Malaysian friends, although they do not know much about our culture, they are aware that we exist, that we are here. So some people may disagree with my opinion, but I personally see lain-lain as special now. To me, lain-lain means that we, okay, lain-lain means that we are the minority, right? So, which is why we are not recognized statistically in Malaysia. But apart from that, if you see Sabah and Sarawak, if combined, they have a lot of ethnic groups and sub-ethnic groups actually. So to discard the line category box and having to like list down all the ethnic groups would be very, very difficult. I think yeah. So I don't take this personally anymore because most official forms now they would usually give us spaces to write down our ethnicity, right? So yeah, but on a side note, I would still prefer to be categorized as Bumi Putra Sabah instead of lain-lain and then having to write Kadazan again. Because Bumi Putra Sabah is more generalized.
True that. And if you were to include all ethnic groups, it would be a very, very long list, honestly.
No, I just wanted to say that this podcast really opened up my eyes a lot, the way you answer things and how mature you are about the line part is really, really intriguing. Though I understand that you have to come through with that. I mean, I myself is a Brunei Sulok and I could never see a site there that will say like Sulok or anything like that. So I always just put Malay. Uh I never thought that seeing line as a special thing. And honestly, I do agree, though it can be better if it's put as Bumi Putra Sabah or Sarawak. So yeah, thank you for saying that. It's really good to hear that from you.
Really glad you added that in. because I feel the same way. That is a very nice phrase to categorize what, instead of line. So a light question to end the general section. What are your hopes for the Kadazan community or other indigenous communities in Sabah?
This will be a very simple answer. So firstly, I hope that the Kadazandusun community, they could, I hope that they could place more emphasis on education, as it is the main thing that can change people's mindset to make them more open-minded, understand reality, and know their rights. Because I observe that most people in the Kadazan community take education very lightly, which is not good lah, because people could easily take advantage over them. And another hope would be I hope that we could revive the dying Kadazandusun language, customs, traditions, and culture, because these are the identities that we need to preserve and protect before it completely vanishes. So I hope that every Kadazandusun individual or those in indigenous community would at least do something so that their culture will not die lah. Like at least play their part.
Beautifully put answer. So, as Guns is a mainly a Sabahan law student, youth-led directive. So we have to talk about the native laws in Sabah. So native court systems in Sabah is a very unique feature of the Malaysian legal system. It serves as a mechanism for settling disputes concerning breach of customary law among the natives in the state. So my question is, why do you think it is important for us to give credence to the existing native customary laws of Sabah?
Wow. Okay. I think it is important to give this credence because I see this as one way to also preserve the identity and dignity of the Sabahans within the Federation of Malaysia. So back then, I think even the British colonials, they paid their respect to this native law by preserving the customs of orang orang kaya-kaya OKK and orang tua OT leadership status in certain districts in Sabah. So even so they allowed them to hear civil and minor criminal cases within their own native communities. So in fact, I think that by having this credence, it would definitely be an effective way to ensure that the non-Sabahans who are in Sabah, they will be more mindful and sensitive of our rich tradition and cultural values.
So, talking about, Sabahan's rights, definitely the Malaysian Agreement 1963 is very important to this topic. So, what do you think is the importance of the MA 63, to the Kadazan community, to all the indigenous communities in terms of their special rights?
I think the MS63 is significantly important because it will be able to empower these indigenous communities in Sabah and Sarawak. The rights and interests of the indigenous communities, because indigenous communities in both states, they make up the largest spectrum of the population in the two Bornean states. So improvements in the field of like education, civil service representation, business participation, as well as like all the special aids mentioned in the agreement, they shouldn't be overlooked because all these aids would be very, very beneficial for the indigenous communities. And for many years, I observed that dissatisfaction had occurred among the indigenous people who firmly believe that they are wealthy in natural resources, but until now, they still couldn't feel the fulfillment from it. So it is very, very important in improving amenities and infrastructure as well. And to add on, the to have their water treated, electricity supply, especially the road access.
Right. Okay, that's very, very insightful. Yeah, this is a very serious topic, and from hearing from you, there's a lot of issues that needs to be addressed, and it's not. So my next question to you will be that, how does the native court system being independent and free from the state executive affect the natives' laws in Sabah?
Okay, another very, very serious question. So
Go on.
I personally fully support this contention that the judiciary, the native court, is free and independent from the executive, because uh, I believe that most people who are aware of the news have seen instances where several state-backed individuals who like angered the Kadazandusun communities, but somehow they have been protected from being brought to the native court, which is very, very unfair. So perhaps with native court system being independent and free from this executive, it would be able to successfully serve as a mechanism for settling disputes concerning breach of customary law among the natives in the state law without any biasness from the state executive. Yeah, that's all.
Wow. You can write my law essay for me at this point. I could never word it that way.
I
Wow, thank
second
you.
that.
Yeah.
I second that.
Same here.
Yeah, I couldn't even say anything other than I agree. Yes, definitely.
It's really well
All
put.
right. Yeah. And this is also, I guess, to end this part of the segment. What are your opinions on the recent news where Sabah and Sarawak are to be known as Borneo states instead of East Malaysia, following amendments to the constitution?
To me personally, I think that it is okay. Like it is not really that offensive because Sabah and Sarawak, we are already known as Borneo before, like not Borneo, and to be called as Borneo states would not really be a huge problem to a certain extent, but this may cause misunderstanding. Like for example, if foreigners enter into Malaysia, they would not really acknowledge Sabah and Sarawak to be part of Malaysia because of its name.
Honestly, in my opinion, I guess it's the recognition that we are Borneo and we're special states. In all of our states in Malaysia, is Sarawak and Sabah being called Borneo, and the rest are the Malayan states. And I feel like it's, in my way, I feel more unique being said that, being called like Sabahan being like a North Bornean. It's
Yeah.
definitely something unique for me, I feel, and I don't feel like it's racist at all. For me lah, in my own opinion, I feel like it just adds on to our values as Sabahans and Sarawakians too. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
second it as well. I don't find it offensive as well.
I saw that there was also a general consensus that most people they were in favor of this like decision.
It's okay as long as those living in West Malaysia don't make fun of it lah. Like they don't come up with any weird terms like saying that we are people pulau afterwards. Yeah.
All right. Going into this very fun segment that we usually have on Alibi the podcast. The fun question of today is there any place you would like to introduce in KK or Sabah as a whole where they serve really good traditional or native foods?
A place that I would definitely recommend people to go to have traditional food, especially for first timer, is Little Sulap in Kota Kinabalu. Yeah, if you guys are aware of it, it's located in front of Gaya Street nearby the road. So if you like pass the road there, you can see it on the side lah. So they serve really, really delicious delicacy, and it is affordable as well. I don't think the price range is more than 15. it's very very affordable lah, and it's delicious. And but recently I saw on the social media that they're closing down soon. I'm not sure if they're going to expand or they're shutting down immediately. But if you have the chance to go now, you better go and try the food lah. It's nice, and like the ambience in the cafe is very nice as well. And there are a lot of good reviews lah about the cafe. Yeah, and I think most of the influencers also have been there, and they gave good reviews.
We'll be sure to try that. All right.
Yeah.
What about you, Elaine? Do you have any suggestions?
Okay, so for me, sadly, I've never really, had many opportunities to try traditional or native foods. But one place I've been to is the Tipsy Asi. Yeah, they actually do serve Kadazan food, and I thought it was very interesting. It was a very nice experience. The place is very pretty. They have very nice views because it's located quite high on the hill. It's quite dangerous to go out at night. Yeah, but that's a place I would recommend.
Yeah, I've been there. It's a very nice place. The view there is amazing. Watching sunsets there, it's amazing.
You can have drinks with friends, take nice pictures. There's even live bands sometimes. Yeah. So it's a very nice environment.
I've heard about like Tipsy Asi, but I was wondering, is it halal? Like maybe our Muslim friends are wondering as well. I don't think it's
I
halal.
don't think it's not halal. It's not.
Because they serve beer and wine, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Just to like sidetrack a bit, is Little Sulap halal too?
Yeah, it's halal.
Okay, all right. So guys, take notes. Take notes. Okay, what about you, Nadia? Do you have like any recommendations?
I don't honestly know if it's considered traditional. I don't think it's traditional because like it's ikan bakar. I don't know if you guys been there. It's at Tanjung Aru. It's a supermarket, Sunny supermarket. It's called Kedai Kopi Wah Juan Wah Juan. Wait, yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's right. It's so underrated, and I feel like it's really a Sabahan in a shop where in the morning it's non-halal and then in the night it's like ikan bakar. So like that's Sabah in a shop. And I feel like if I am a prisoner and I am on death sentence, that's my last meal. Like it's too good.
Wow.
But it should be underrated lah, so not a lot of crowd. But yeah, it's really good. You should really go. How about you, Joe?
For me, I would say one of the places that I've been to, I haven't been to a lot, but I feel like this one really captures the essence of what an authentic, traditional, native Kadazan foods are. Would be My Native. Have you guys ever been there? It's My Native, located in Plaza 333. Yeah.
Is it the one at the corner?
Is it?
Oh, this one is on the first floor. It's on the first floor. It's in the middle. It's somewhere in the middle. As to whether it's halal or not, that I'm not really sure. I think you guys might need to do some research, but they just serve really great authentic food, and me being a sucker for ikan basong sometimes,
Oh yeah, definitely.
that really just captures my heart sometimes. So yeah, you guys should try it out. Oh yeah, and an honorable mention would be D Place at Plaza Shell. They have butot pizza there. This one is something new, I guess, and not really something new. It's just something different. So yeah,
Wow. Okay. We can try someday.
yeah, we should someday. Well, that's all the time we have, folks. Thank you for listening to Alibi, the podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to talking about more relatable and relevant Sabahan law student topics. I'm your host, Joffrey. Special thanks to our guest, Miss Velvette, on this episode. If you haven't checked out our previous episode, please do. Subscribe to us to stay updated with all our latest content. See you in the next episode.
Sorry now that I'm a little late. I apologize that you had to wait. It totally slipped my mind. I lost all my sense of time. So buy me that drink and just let me think, and I'll tell you the reasons why.